Thanks for joining us today on Shaw TV. This is an amazing show. You're going to meet Kendra McBain, who is an amazing teenager. We introduced her to you before on Shaw TV while she was getting chemotherapy. And instead of thinking about herself, instead of feeling sorry for herself, Kendra was cooking up this walk to raise money for Cancer Care Manitoba.
Kendra came out kind of very, very small, very, very blue looking, and with this meek little cry, and that was her entrance into the world.
I knew that Rob really wanted a boy, so I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted a boy to make him happy or a girl to make me happy, but anyway, we got one of each, so.
Kendra and I had a typical brother and sister relationship. You know, we'd have our fights, we'd scream about who's watching the TV and stuff, but when it really came down to it, I mean, she was my sister, and like whenever I was in trouble or whenever, maybe if it wasn't just saying anything, just coming and watching TV, just having that one person there to be with you was just awesome.
Well, we always went to the lake in the summertime. That was what we would do every weekend. We would go down and invade Rob's parents at their cottage along with all their cousins and Rob's sister.
The lake was a special place, whether it be the crafts they would do with Grandma, whether it be fishing with us, or just being at the lake.
I remember we were sitting in a school play here, and she noticed a lump on her left arm, and we kind of laughed it off, and we're like, it's probably nothing, you just bruised it.
I still remember it vividly. Kendra got out of the car, we're standing at the back of my truck in the driveway, and she said, Dad, I got this, Daddy, I have this bump on my arm. And I looked at her and I said, what did you do? And she said, nothing. I said, well, you know, Kendra, you must have done something. How do you get this great big bump on your arm? She said, well, it doesn't really hurt. It's just a bump. And we said, well, we better get that looked at. We'll call Auntie Heather.
So I remember talking to Auntie Heather and then meeting Kendra by the next clinic. And I was Kendra's primary oncologist. So we work in Winnipeg, there's a whole group of us who work together, but we kind of each take the primary responsibility for the patients that we meet first.
I'll never forget the phone call. Because it was these things always happen on Fridays, you know, so it was a Friday afternoon. And I was standing here in this room and talking to him on the phone. He called from Vancouver. He was out of town when he got the results, but he knew that we needed to know the answer. So he phoned us, and Rob was in the kitchen and I was here, and he said, Tammy, it's not good. And I said, what do you mean? I had no reason to suspect it was cancer. And he said, well, it's cancer. And I went like, cancer? And I looked up at Rob, who was in the kitchen, and it was just utter disbelief.
Well, I mean, everybody asks the same question, why, right? Like, why is this happening to us? Like, what did we do to deserve this? And she was such a random thing. I mean, Kendra was an angel. She didn't smoke, she didn't do drugs. Like, I mean, so everybody was just wondering, like, how could this happen?
Kendra had a rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a cancer coming from muscle tissue.
It's a word that has burned into my mind, alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. And what I tell people who don't know is that when you hear the word sarcoma, it's bad. It's basically the same cancer that Terry Fox had, except Terry's was osteosarcoma, which was in his bones. Kendra's is rhabdo, which means muscle. It was in her muscle. And if you think of muscle, your body's full of it. So the cancer is very happy to go anywhere in your body.
Kendra was always very determined this was not going to set her back. You know, and it was really, okay, it very quickly got into, okay, what are the next steps? What do we do next? Let's get going. I can remember Kendra telling me later on, saying, you know, I don't want to hear about what might have, just tell me what we're going to do about it, and let's just do it.
I actually had a surprise party for her, a you're done chemo treatment party at my house, which was, you know, she thought she was coming over to make cookies, so she came over something in like sweats and whatever, and it was unbelievable how well it worked. And our whole grade was there. And she was just, yeah, she cried, but it was awesome.
Kendra, you are leading a pack of people who are so behind you. How are you feeling right now?
I'm very excited. I can't believe we managed to pull it all off.
Tell our viewers you haven't even finished counting the money yet, how much you've raised.
So far, just the high school itself has raised $57,000.
She was near the end of her second year of treatment when she got the idea that maybe as her way of giving back to cancer care and all of the doctors and nurses and staff that supported her through her ordeal, that maybe she could do something to say thank you. And that's where the idea for the walk first came.
She was actually community service prefect. So that was sort of her role, was to come up with something at the school. And this was the thing that she came up with.
It was her idea to do this walk, which we would just do a light walk, you know, not too far, but just something to get everybody together.
And at that point, she was thinking very small. She was thinking, you know, I'm one person, you know, what can I do? So, but she had school at her disposal, and there's lots of charity work, you know, being done at schools these days. And so the thought of organizing a walk wasn't out of the realm of something she thought she was capable of doing.
It started with the senior school because she was part of the senior school, and I think then the middle school got on board, and then the little kids got on board, and it brought this school together. It brought the feeling of community into this school.
What she didn't count on was how everybody would rally to help her in her idea.
Honestly, I thought the first walk might be, I didn't know going in, I thought it might be sad, to be honest with you, but it was the opposite. It was like a celebration, and it was good. Everyone got sort of whipped up about it. It was cool. It was like more of a celebration than anything sort of sad, which is hard to do actually.
We were standing, I remember, at the back of the crowd, sort of just watching on and seeing everyone's reaction and stuff. And it was almost like she was sort of a celebrity to all these kids because everyone looked up to her, everyone knew her name, and I think everyone was really inspired by her. So it was amazing to see because I've never met anyone who's been able to draw in a crowd like that.
I couldn't believe that a young woman in the prime of her life with tons of friends, very popular, absolutely beautiful, had the presence of mind to think beyond what she was suffering to other people in the community. Who would not want to help? I wanted to do everything for her. She is my forever and always heroine.
There's a few people that you, within seconds of meeting them, know you're going to remember them for the rest of your life. And she's one of those ones. Like, if I had only met her once and if it was only for 10 seconds, I'd still remember.
And the day of the walk when, you know, we had over 1,000 people there, all wearing purple, and she was up on stage, you know, it was amazing.
It was actually pretty incredible that the day before the first walk, Kendra found out that she relapsed and still went through with the walk. And that's when I think everybody really took a look at themselves and said, wow.
Well, that's as hard as that initial discussion is. I think the discussion of relapse is always harder because, you know, you've gotten to that point. You've finished your treatment. You've gone through all the horrible things we said you had to go through. You've done them. Everything was great, and now it's back again.
I mean, I've heard about relapses and stuff, but I didn't think for a million years that it would happen to her. I thought, okay, well, I mean, she got cancer. That's rare enough. I didn't think it would come back, and so when she relapsed, that was probably the hardest on her, knowing that she fought that whole time and beat it, and we thought, okay, we're in the clear, and having her relapse was, that was just the worst.
I remember probably one of the worst days of my life, getting a text from her. This was in first year university, so things were going downhill, saying, I have some bad news, are you ready for it? And I was, you know, it's not gonna get any better, of course, like whatever it is. And she said, the doctors say there's no hope, I'm just going to die.
It was important to her that her life have meaning. She didn't, when she recognized that she wasn't going to be, on the world for as long as she had hoped, she wanted to accomplish something. So I think through the monies that she raised at Cancer Care, that became her legacy. That became what she accomplished.
Because of her efforts and the support of the community and family behind her, 3 very critical areas have come to life at Cancer Care Manitoba. 1, a teen room that has the teen experience in mind uniquely, that can change how they feel in the time that they spend at Cancer Care. A program called Teens Living with Cancer, TLC, where they're able to come together on a regular basis and get the kind of emotional support that they need because of their unique experience. And incredibly, support for clinical research into teen cancers. And cumulatively now, what they have raised guarantees that kind of research for the next 10 years at least. That's incredible.
What Kendra always said to my dad and I was just to go on and, live your life, because I don't want people, sympathizing over me. She was always a stickler like that.
I always go back to when she spoke to the crowd at Kendra's Walk, the first Kendra's Walk, and she said, it's cancer is nothing to be ashamed of. There's no other way to get through it except with a smile on your face. I guess that's what she wanted people to hear.
And every day, she thought she was going to beat it. And she truly believed it, and I think that's why she lived so happily for the life that she had, is that she did believe she could beat it. And as it did claim her life, but I think she didn't go down without a fight, so.
Kendra said the most important thing that she said to us was she said she had 18 fabulous years of life, and she was okay with that because she looked around at some of our friends and said, your friends are miserable. I don't want 55 years of miserable life. I'm pretty happy with 18 great years. And I still to this day replay that in my mind as to saying goodbye to her, knowing that she lived.